Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher Podcast. Happy Thursday, April 10th, 2025 to you and yours. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. We have a jam-packed show for you today on the program. Plenty to get into. He will be here at 12:10. USF men's basketball coach, Coach Bryan Hodgson, will join us on the program. You do not want to miss that. I am so excited to chat with him. And I did my homework, man. So we're going to ask some pretty interesting questions as well. Tampa Bay's home for hoops. USF basketball. Cannot wait to see what he can do with this program. So we'll get with Coach Hodgson at 12:10 today. Eddie Encina joins us at 1:30 for his weekly visit. What the heck happened last night at Amalie Arena? The Tampa Bay Lightning fall 4-3 in overtime to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll give you my 2 cents on that as well. Plenty to get into on the program. The Rays bounce back. They snapped that 5-game losing streak. That is a great start as well. The Masters starts today, so we'll give you an update on the scoreboard there. Also, Jason Licht speaking over at the Avon Health Training Center at One Buc Place ahead of the 2025 NFL Draft. What does Jason Licht have to say? We'll give you those comments as well. And then at 1 o'clock today, got it right here. Another box from our friends over at Steinbrenner High School, the Steinbrenner Baseball Team. Coach Chenzo Scanio hooked us up with the box. It's our Recher Reveals segment. If you want to be a part of Recher Reveals, and I know there's a couple other teams that are already starting to send some stuff over, hit me up, slide up in the DMs, message me, and we'll get you and we'll feature your team. This is a heavy one today, man. There's some stuff in here. Shout out to the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They were the first team to take part in Recher Reveals today, Steinbrenner Baseball, but we're talking travel ball teams, we're talking high school teams, college teams, pro teams. I don't care. If you want to be a part of Recher Reveals, hit me up. Follow me up on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll get into all of that as the show goes on. I want to answer this question from Giuseppe La Rocca. Jay, will you be at the Rowdies home opener on Saturday night? You bet your bottom dollar I will be there at Al Lang. If you see me out there, come on by and say hello. Cannot wait to be back there. It is over 200 days since the Rowdies played at Al Lang. I cannot wait to be able to get out there and see what Coach Robbie Nielsen and the fellas have in store. Ralph's Mob's going to be going crazy. I know there's a lot of last-second things being done in preparation for that game on Saturday night, but man, it's just I can't wait. Been counting down the days, and we'll have Leo Fernandez joining us on the program tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So one of the main players for the Rowdies hasn't gotten in any of the games yet. Dealing with, just some issues. But hopefully Leo will be back in the squad Saturday night there at Al Lang Stadium, Loudoun United, For more information, go to rowdysoccer.com. Every single bit of information there. And now you saw me with my kit the other day that they sent me. So if you want a kit of your own, you can actually order one online, get it personalized. I'm a huge jersey personalized kind of guy. So my third Rowdies jersey, love you guys. Thank you so much. But yeah, go out, support Team Tampa Bay all day, every day. David Terry, Ryan B, not happy with the Lightning game last night. I know, fellas. And we're going to break it all down after our chat with Coach Hodgson. I don't want to start that conversation and then have to stop it when Coach is on, because that was a game last night where the start was ridiculous. Ridiculous. It took 3.5 minutes. Listen, and we'll play this real quick for you, and we'll go over it in a little bit. But This is John Cooper. And sometimes, listen, you got to ask the questions, right? And when you're in the press conference, some people look at it, and I'm happy nobody was really busting my chops about the question, but he wasn't happy. You knew he wasn't going to be happy with how the game started. So here's John Cooper last night. If you didn't see it, I started the press conference because, listen, you got to do it. You got to ask the tough questions.
Coop going down 2-0 early. Is there a message that you have to disseminate? No, you're not a guy that likes to take timeouts. You just kind of let it simmer, let them kind of figure it out there.
Not happy, man. Not happy with that performance to start the game last night. And I know there's people that say, why doesn't John Cooper ever take timeouts? He really saves his timeouts for end-of-game situations when his team's out there for a long time. Like, he is not the type of guy that takes a timeout because he needs to give his team a breath of fresh air. Like, he just doesn't prescribe to that. That is not his thing. He's never been like that. I don't know if he'll ever be like that. But yeah, the start doomed them because they battled back. They battled their ass off to try to come back to that game. It was just too little, too late. They hit 4 posts in the first period. Like, we'll get into that in a little bit, but man, just a missed opportunity in that game last night. You could have won that game in regulation and been in first place today, but unfortunately for them, they were not able to do that. If you missed the conversation yesterday that we had with Eric Erlinson, especially when the news broke that Isaac Howard could be going back to Michigan State, go check that out on my channel, tiny.cc/jrecher. And again, it's not set in stone. It's not set in stone. When you look at the situation, I'm just replying. Just making sure that we have all of our bases covered for USF when Coach Hodgson joins us on the program. But yeah, I mean, when you have a game like yesterday, you just kind of tip your hat and you move on. And, you got a point out of the situation. Now you just got to keep winning. Got to keep winning. I don't know if they're going to be able to win the division now the way it is, but hey, just get that number 2 seed in the Atlantic Division. So you have home ice against whether it's Florida or whether against Ottawa. To be honest with you, I wouldn't want to go to Ottawa first round, but there's a great chance if they play the Panthers in the first round, I'll be down there for the playoffs. So fingers crossed. Let's give you an update on the Masters right now. Round 1 in progress. Aaron Rai in first place at 4 under. He is through 10. Stefan Jaeger, 3 under through 8. And then Joaquin Niemann and Scotty Scheffler and Tyrrell Hatton. Those 3 guys are tied with, they're tied at 2 under. Davis Riley, Michael Kim, Chris Kirk, Bernard Longer, Will Zalatoris, JT Puss, a bunch of guys that won. And I'm not reading all these names, but a bunch of guys yet to tee off as well. So plenty of big names throughout the entire day, including Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Cantlay as well. I've got Jon Rahm. I picked him to win it. I'm in the fantasy golf league with the people over at the Valspar. So you pick one guy, and then you can't pick him for the rest of the season. So I'm picking all the live guys for the majors because you can't pick them for any of the other PGA tournaments. But I love doing that league with the Valspar folks because the top 5 people that you finish in the top 5 spots, you get a donation in the charity of your choice. So just another example of why Tracy West and Rick Odioso and everybody there at the Valspar is top notch. And we see what they were able to do for the tournament a couple of weeks ago. Victor Hovland with the dramatic finish, but all they do as far as giving back to our community. And it's another great example. And it's bringing people together, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And just like we'll talk to Coach Hodgson here in a bit, it's relationships, right? It's relationships. That's what it's all about. And you notice that when you're around the sports landscape here in the Tampa Bay area. Team Tampa Bay is not just some corny slogan. It's not just something that people say and it isn't for real. Like you see it. You see it. The relationships are real. And you see so many of it's like there's so many representations of different teams at different games. And you'll see this coach at this game and this coach at this game and everybody getting along. And that's what it's all about, man. That is what makes the Tampa Bay area so special. Because, yeah, there's been a large amount of success, but we've also have a lot of great people when it comes to our leadership. So that's why I think I'm super excited about everything going forward, especially at USF Athletics. All right, let's bring him in. The head coach of the USF men's basketball team, head coach Bryan Hodgson joins us on the program. Coach, what's going on, man? How are you? Happy Thursday.
Appreciate it, Jay. Happy Thursday to you. Obviously, great day of Masters. We got the Masters going on. I heard your brief coverage there. I'm a JT guy. Justin Thomas, obviously being a Alabama guy, so I've been following him. So I'll be rooting for JT here this week.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites too, man. Him and Jordan Spieth, watching them every year at the Valspar. We go out of our way to be able to go follow those guys because you got to follow the American golfers. And you're right, the Bama, the Roll Tide, everybody, they let him know when he's here in the Tampa Bay area. Before we get started with the basketball stuff, how was the Lightning game last night, man? I mean, that's first experience at Amalie Arena to be able to be in the building. All pun intended. It was electric last night. What was it like for you and the fam?
It was amazing. Super appreciative of the hospitality they showed to us. Phenomenal hockey atmosphere, and obviously being a Western New Yorker, I grew up in the hockey area. I mean, you look at Buffalo and Detroit. Obviously, Toronto's right there across the border. That whole area, Pittsburgh. I grew up around hockey my entire life, and so normally in some of these southern cities, the atmosphere is not quite like that. Obviously, with the recent success of the Lightning, man, that place was rocking last night. Obviously, didn't come out in our favor, but super exciting game to be at, and can't wait to get back in the building. Hopefully, I'll have some the time and opportunity to make it to a playoff game.
Yeah, Coach, you and I, we have some things in common, aside from having pretty nice beards. Everybody keeps asking me, you got to ask Coach about his beard, looking sharp. But also, I went to college. I went to SUNY Oswego, so I'm a SUNY guy myself. Okay. So knew all about that weather up there, man. A little different in Tampa.
Yeah, that's funny. I actually was I was at the Final Four last week at our coaches convention and met the current coach at SUNY Oswego. We talked a lot about the weather, but us SUNY grads got to stick together because nobody else, when you're traveling the country and people ask you where you went to school, and you tell them Fredonia State or Oswego, they have no idea what you're talking about. But obviously great education system. We both turned out okay.
You got that right, my friend. Yeah, I remember my uncle was like, yeah, I went there 35 years ago. We never had school canceled. And of course, when I went back in 2003, school got canceled for 3 days. We had 15 feet. That lake effect snow is no joke. But I want to talk to you a little bit about your upbringing too, because I think that really sets you in a position to be a leader. And I asked you this, the day you got introduced, being a leader of young men and how important that is to you. And one of the stories that, I looked up and I saw, because my grandfathers were very influential in my life, both military guys. And the story that I researched and I saw your grandfather, John Hodgson, and what he did and how he was, a prisoner, and he was able to win the Purple Heart after getting out of there. I mean, it's just incredible, getting shot down by the Nazis and to be able to persevere. What kind of lessons did you learn, not just from that experience, but just being there, sitting under the learning tree from, the people that helped raise you, and how did that help you get to this point today?
Yeah. And man, I appreciate you doing that research. My grandfather was my hero. They don't make him like that anymore. He lied about his age to fight for his country in World War II. And one of the coolest things about his story is he had completed his time at war, and they had asked for volunteers to do 5 more missions. And he volunteered, and it was on that next mission that his plane was shot down. He spent 362 days in prison camp. At 21 years old, he weighed 87 pounds, just because obviously malnourishment in prison camp. And some of the stories he told me, but to the lessons piece, from him, he talked about humanity in general and treating people the right way. I think one of my favorite stories and lessons from him was he talked about his last memory before he lost consciousness when his plane was shot down and he was parachuting to the ground and his body was on fire. And he talked about the Japanese pilot saluted him and pulled the cockpit, aimed a weapon at his face and was going to end his life Instead, he saluted him and flew away. And he talked a lot about, obviously, in war, that pilot thought he was fighting for the right thing, right? And so, and we had our opinions. And so he talked a lot about just humanity in general and treating everyone you come across the right way, and making sure that we represent our last name in the right way. And so I think it's carried over a big port. It's really helped mold me as a coach. Talked a lot about having transformational relationships as opposed to transactional relationships. And super fortunate to be adopted into the Hodgson family and have him and my father and my brothers and sisters and my mother as role models. And I really think, as much as they're, growing up, I'm not sure they knew the difference between basketball and football. They helped me more in this profession than they'll ever realize.
Yeah, no doubt. And just looking at your story and listening to your story, and when Coach Oates tabs you as that recruiter after your journey, after going through these different colleges, and Coach Oates goes, "Hey, I want you to be the guy that goes out there and goes into people's homes and talks to people." What is that responsibility like, knowing that you're taking all of your life experiences? Again, it's not so much of a what kind of an X's and O basketball thing. It's a who it's a relatability factor. Like, how do you get on a level? How do you go into this home with one family that's like this, and then a completely different family like that? What was that like, to be able to get that nod from Coach Oates to be the guy that's the face of the program, whether it's Buffalo or Alabama, and to be like knowing like, hey, it's up to you, man. You're going to have to use all the resources that you got growing up and now being a man to help your program get to that next level?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, it was an honor. No matter what where your allegiance is in college athletics, Nate Oates is one of the best in the business, obviously. Final Four last year, Elite Eight this year, multiple Sweet 16s. And so he's really good at what he does. And so for him to give me that responsibility at such a young age was an honor. But I'll tell you what, my childhood, growing up in the foster care system, being adopted into a home that even after I was adopted, we continued, my family took in foster children for the next 10 years after I was adopted. So in that time, my parents took in over 114 foster children, if I'm not mistaken. So in my time in the house, we're talking 80 to 90 different kids came through, some for a day, some for a week, some for a year. And so I was able to be around pretty much every walk of life that you could imagine, right? And in different circumstances and upbringings and tragedy, really. I talked yesterday on the radio a little bit about, I talked to our guys and staff about using our life experiences. You can use them in one of two ways. You can either use them as a crutch or a ladder. And if you want to use it as a crutch, I can promise you the general public doesn't care, right? But if you use it as those experiences as a ladder to elevate yourself as a person, elevate yourself in your profession, and to elevate the people around you, then it's really beneficial. And it's the same in recruiting. Any household I'm going to walk in, good luck, finding something that I can't relate to.
Right.
I've been around a lot of it, and the good and the bad, and they've all have shaped me in a positive way. And I just truly enjoy the recruiting piece of this business, building those relationships, especially here at like a place like South Florida. Like, I can't wait to get into somebody's home in front of mom and dad and a young man and talk about how special this place is. It's when you have true energetic passion behind what you're promoting, that's what makes it special. And it's one of the main reasons I wanted to be here and be the next head basketball coach.
Yeah, you can't fake that too, right? I mean, for people that you can't, it's either genuine or not. There's no gray area. Like, people
I tell you what,
right through that type of stuff.
An 18 or 19-year-old kid can smell fake from a mile away. So those guys don't last very long in this business. There's quite a few out there, but they don't last very long.
You got that right, my friend. Coach, I love during your introductory press conference, you spoke about being on the plane and, looking at your significant other, your fiance, correct?
Yes,
Fiance.
correct.
And just knowing that, USF kind of was like, this was the right place, right? Just take us through that story for those who didn't hear it. And then also your interactions with Michael Kelly and Lee Butler and everybody at South Florida. I've grown to just really, really appreciate and care about those guys over the year. And, no surprise to me that those guys are like easy to convince, not easy, but to help you, show and highlight the green and gold to be a part of South Florida.
No, easy was the word. They made it easy. Those guys are, we talk about my recruiting. Those dudes are some recruiters now.
Right.
But first and foremost, I got to get this. I got to clear the air on this out of the gate, right? Because every time a picture is posted of me on social media and my fiance Jordan is in the picture, I immediately get tagged and I'm told every time that I'm the president of the Outkick Your Coverage Club. I want to go ahead and let everybody out there know I'm well aware by this point. Okay. And so we talk about recruiting. That is the number one recruit. And it's
good
fun.
Good man.
Yeah. So we'll get that out of the way now. We could save people the time and energy. You're not telling me anything I don't know. But as far as that plane, I looked at Jordan. We were flying back from our last game of the season. And as I'm sure you know, I had several opportunities and very intriguing opportunities. And I'm forever grateful to Jeff Purinton and Todd Shields at Arkansas State University for the opportunity they gave me. But the time was right for me to move if the situation was right. Mm-hmm. And there was several opportunities and I went through the interview process and kept getting the phone calls every day and the ultimatums. Hey, we need an answer by this time or this time. And she just kind of looked at me on that plane ride home and she, when you have that genuine relationship with somebody and they know you like the back of their hand, she looked at me and she said, what's wrong? And I said, nothing. And she said, no, I know what's going on. She's like, you really want the job at South Florida, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. And she just knew, she could tell because of the excitement in my voice when I talked about South Florida versus some of the other places, it just wasn't the same. And that's a credit to obviously Michael Kelly and Lee Butler and Jay Stroman and the list goes on. Will Weatherford, Mike Griffin, everybody I spoke to during this entire process, the enthusiasm and passion that they had for this place was unmatched. And when I tell you, I spoke to some places that have strong, strong basketball traditions, the enthusiasm and passion from the leadership here at South Florida, it wasn't even in the same conversation. And the way they spoke about this place, their vision for this place, it was just contagious. And every time I spoke to them, I left that conversation more and more excited. And I'll tell you what, everything that they talked to me about, everything that they showed me about this place during the process has lived up to its expectations and beyond. I told someone last night, every day I come to my office, there's something more that I find out about this place that just excites me to another level. And that's what makes this place special.
Yeah, it's a great point. I've learned this over the years, interviewing people, guys like Tony Dungy and Derek Brooks over the years. When they walk out of the room or you walk out of the room, there's a certain feeling. It's an intangible thing that you have. And you're like, that was good. Or like, you know what I mean? Like you feel the vibes. You can't fake the funk. I got to ask you about the late, great Amir Abdur-Rahim. Made such a profound impact on our community, Tampa Bay's home for hoops. I love during your introductory press conference because, listen, you're coming into a position here where the guy was beloved. He made a profound impact. But I love how you found that balance. You found that balance of honoring Coach Amir, but also, putting your flag in the ground like, hey, this is my journey. This is my step. And I thought you did that with such class and respect and honor. How do you continue to do that going forward, Coach? Because he did make an impact, but you want to be able to establish kind of your own identity here. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, I'll say this. It's difficult and easy at the same time. And what I mean by that is easy in a sense that Amir was as genuine as a person, as a human being that I've ever crossed paths with. And I was fortunate enough to have a relationship with him. And so when I come to work every day and I walk through these doors, I want to operate in a way that would make him proud. And I think from my interaction with him and our relationship, you know, I know what those standards are. And I talked about it in the press conference. You know, we're going to keep his core values intact here. And that's something that was genuine to me. I was laying in bed down the street at the Embassy Suites Hotel a couple of days into the job, and I was thinking about him and thinking about this place and what a special time that he had here and the mark that he left on people here. And I'm going through, you know, preparing for my press conference, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just thought about it, like, why I don't need to come in and reinvent the wheel here from a standard standpoint, because he set the standard here for USF men's basketball and laid the groundwork on a very, very successful program. And the core values that he had specifically in relation to truth, right? He talked about truth. You saw it, you know, it's posted all over the building. He talked about it a bunch, and trust, responsibility, unity, toughness, the entire humility, right? The entire definition of the acronym truth for him. He lived that every single day. And I was telling my staff the other day, if we come in here with that mindset, we're going to be successful. And that's why he was successful. And the reason why I said easy and hard, easy because it's the right way to do things, and difficult because he was a very special human being. And so, you know, we're going to do our best to live up to the same standards that he ingrained here in this program, and honor him in the right way.
No doubt about it, man. I know, you know, switching over to the basketball side, it's all about, this is a new world of college basketball, right? It's ever changing, right? Transfer portal, NIL, but style of play too. I know that's a big thing to you, being aggressive offensively, being aggressive defensively, and then getting CJ coming back, right? That, you know, we knew that there was going to be a lot of transition when it comes to the players, and for him to be able to come back here, take us through that conversation, and just like the overall, like, what can people expect the first time they see this team tip off there at the Yuengling Center?
Yeah, so starting with CJ, you know, when I took the job, we're big into the numbers. You'll learn we're very analytical in our approach to everything we do, from recruiting to practice to games. And so the recruiting piece, you know, I want to make sure in an era where it's a revolving door, I want to make sure that if I'm going to keep a young man here or ask him to stay here, that he fits what we want to do. Right. And so we myself and my staff, we took a deep dive into this program and the roster that was here last year. And while also considering the tragedy that they faced, right? Because this is not normal circumstances, right? And for anybody. And so we went through the roster and identified guys that we felt fit the way that we want to play the best. And CJ's at the top of that list. An elite athlete, downhill attacking combo guard who's phenomenal in transition, and that's where we want to play. And there was several other guys in that category, but I'll just be candid with you. He was number one on that list, and so we got our number one recruit my first couple of days on the job, and I'm really proud of that. And man, what a special young man. He didn't take another visit. He didn't entertain anywhere else, and I'll tell you what, that says a lot about this program, this university, and this community. In an era where kids are taking visits left and right, even just to announce that they're going to go back to the school that they were at, he didn't do it. He said, I want to be here. When we met, he said, I love this place. I love the people here. I love the leadership. And I'm all about USF basketball. And that's all I needed to hear. And so fortunate to have him. He's going to be a very special program or player in this program. And as far as style of play, it goes hand in hand with what we just talked about with CJ. We're going to get up and down. Every team I've coached has been top 50 in the country in offensive tempo. That's not going to change. We recruit to that. We don't change the way we play. And so you'll see in our recruiting style, whether it's high school or portal, I'll be very candid right out of the gate. There may be a kid 2 miles down the road, and he could be the top 10 player in the country. If he doesn't fit the way that we're going to play, it makes no sense for us or that young man. We're always going to look here first, right? We're going to make sure we cover our backyard. We're going to recruit Tampa. We're going to recruit Florida. But if they don't fit the way we want to play, we're not going to do ourselves or that young man a disservice. And then we'll cast the national and international net from there. But we're going to get up and down. We're going to shoot a lot of threes. We're going to attack the rim. The plan is to be big, long, and athletic. And I said it last year. I'm going to say it again this year. We want to get old and stay old. If you look at the teams that just played in the Final Four, look at the average age on those teams, they're old. And the teams that were playing in the Elite Eight, old. Sweet 16, old. It's just that's the reality, right? You look at the NFL, the guys that are the most productive are the vets. You look at the NBA, the guys that are most productive, the vets, right? Been there, done that, and had some growth each year. With that being said, we're also going to include some balance in our roster with some freshmen and make freshmen that fit what we want to do and we really feel have a chance to grow and have an impact in our program. So I think you'll see a good balance on the roster, but everybody we bring in is going to fit into that up-tempo style of play.
All right, Coach, last one for me before I let you go. Tell the Bulls Nation fan base something that maybe they haven't heard yet from Coach Bryan Hodgson. What does he like to have on his pizza or a burger? What's your TV show that you're binging right now? Give me something that you haven't answered yet in the press conference yet.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm a big I'm a big food guy. I mean, I am 6'5", 275 pounds, so that didn't come by being picky. But I'll say, I've already ate at some great restaurants here in town. Obviously, I'm a Western New Yorker, so I'm a big pizza and wings guy, right? So looking forward to finding out where the best local pizza and wing spots are here in Tampa. And outside of that, man, I'll tell you what, as far as TV, I don't get to watch a ton of TV. I mean, I watch basketball.
You're watching tape.
Yeah, and I'm watching film. I love it. I know I'm going to start getting those golf invites here soon. And so I'll just make sure everybody's on the same page. I am an awful golfer. I'll get out there and I'll participate. I own a set of clubs, but I'm at my best driving the golf cart, having a good time, chopping it up with people on the golf course. But man, I'm just to wrap this thing up with you, man. I'm so thankful for your time and taking the time to have this conversation with me. But I hope that here shortly, as I get to know more and more people and get out in this community and on this campus, that people can see and feel the energy and enthusiasm that myself and the staff and our players are going to have. This is a extremely special place. You talked about some of the people you've had on your podcast that still live here in Tampa and have made it. They can live anywhere in the world and they've chosen to stay here, right? That says a lot. And so this place is special. This community is special. We wake up every day after the 3 or 4 hours of sleep we're getting right now, fired up to get back at it again. And can't wait for everybody to see that and get out and get to meet some more people here as time goes on.
And coaches, you see behind me, man, there's nobody that bleeds Tampa Bay and green and gold like myself. So you'll see me at plenty of games this year, covering, cheering, and I echo the sentiments of one of the great names and voices in college basketball, Jay Billis, a home run hire, man. To see so many people agree with those sentiments here to have you as the new head coach of the USF men's basketball team. We are very lucky to have you and can't wait to see what the future holds with you and the green and gold. Coach Bryan Hodgson, thank you so much for your time, man. Get back to watching film and watching tape and on the recruiting trail, man.
Well, wait, first, I got it.
Go ahead.
What is your hometown?
So I'm originally from Central Islip on Long Island, right in the middle.
Okay. Yeah,
so
okay.
I joke about this. I went to Oswego because I broadcast journalism. So I played high school baseball, high school hockey. I could have played D2, both of those sports, but I wanted to be on ESPN. So I went to Oswego, but unfortunately I majored in, things that maybe weren't necessarily a class. I was out there partying and having fun. I could have went to school for 8 years and then I moved down here and I actually started coaching baseball. So my dad was a baseball coach. My grandfather was a baseball coach. So I did that for 8 years. And then I got into radio when I was 28. And I think being a coach kind of helped me transition to radio and media because, I was working with the youth, working with people. And then, all of a sudden, kind of the rest is history, man. So our Western New York and coaching backgrounds, man, we got a lot in common.
Absolutely, man. Well, look forward to getting together in person here soon and talking about it.
You're the man. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week, man. Thank you.
You as well. Thanks, man.
All right, buddy. Great stuff there, Coach Bryan Hodgson. Again, home run hire, and it's not just the basketball stuff. It's not the X's and O's, man. It's the people. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I stress that, and you guys hear me talk about that a lot on the podcast. It's about the people, man. It's about the relationships and what I'm a huge proponent of. It's not about what this person says or what somebody says about themselves. It's what other people say about them. And when you have so many high profile names in college basketball and just around athletics and even South Florida, what they have to say about Coach Hodgson, I a huge fan. Just think about it, man. Like, you guys have watched me here on the podcast. Like, who's asking me questions, right? I mean, that's very special, and a big thank you. And our guy Ren, I like him. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I like what he's all about. Love the background. You know, this is a guy that, you know, foster program, battling. I mean, looking up some of the stories at what he went through. The reason why he was put into foster care is because his biological mother, her boyfriend, put him on a burning stove wearing only a diaper. So they took him away from his mom and her boyfriend. It's just like, wild, man. Wild story. But again, we just spoke about it right there. After you go through what you've gone through in your young life and growing up, right? Like, what there's no experience, there's no journey going that, like, you can't not relate to somebody, because nobody's gonna have the exact same story, but there's a relatability factor, right? Man, again, home run hire, no doubt about it. So big thank you to Coach Hodgson, everybody there at USF for making this happen. That was a lot of fun. Of course, we'll put that up on our social media as well. Let's talk a little bit of Tampa Bay Lightning hockey here. I know people are asking if you have any questions, if you want to get in on the conversation at all here on the program, call in right now, right there. If you want to hop in with the video call in, StreamYard.com/2BFSNRZSU8. You want to talk Lightning, you want to talk Coach Hodgson, you want to talk Rays, you want to talk about Bucks, get in on the conversation right now. But looking back at the Lightning last night, man, that start was not good enough. 3 minutes and 35 seconds into the game, or whatever, 3:33, excuse me, they gave up 2 goals to Toronto. The Maple Leafs are coming off of a game where they just lost 3-1 in Florida against the Panthers. You know, they're either going to come out of the gates hot because they're warm from the night before, or they're going to come out sluggish. Like, you have to be ready for anything. And unfortunately, the Bolts were just not ready. And listen, if you play structured, you beat Toronto. I don't think they're making another deep run in the postseason. They blocked a ton of shots last night. Don't get me wrong. But the Lightning had a lot of control of that game. A lot. And if they didn't hit 4 posts, I mean, they'd probably win that game. So I didn't walk away from that. Yeah, you walk away from that game last night being pissed that the Lightning didn't win the game. But I don't know about you guys, but did anybody go to that? Did anybody watch that game last night and think that the Lightning were overmatched? I didn't look at it like that. And let's not forget who wasn't in that game last night. Jake Guentzel wasn't there. So Jake Guentzel, and shout out to the Guentzel family. His wife either had a baby or is, in the middle of it right now, or we don't know. We haven't heard quite yet, but not having Jake in there, especially after being at morning skate yesterday, like, that's a huge part of their team. And maybe they score 1 or 2 of those goals in the first period. We're having a different conversation today. But not having Guentzel in there was huge. That was a huge loss. And then also losing Luke Glendening. Luke is a guy that does a great job in the faceoff dot. He's one of your best penalty killers. And when you're going 11-7 like the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then you don't have Glendening, I don't see enough people. Listen, it's not an excuse, but it's a reason. It's part of the reason why I think they weren't able to kind of push over the line last night. Played with 10 forwards. A good chunk of the game, 2.5 periods. They played with 10 forwards. That's rough, man. That is not easy at all to do. Now, what did the Lightning do to adjust to tomorrow night's game? Maybe Glendening will be back. Gensel should probably be back in the lineup, but Mitchell Chafee played in the game last night. I didn't think he played all that great. Do you go back to 12-6? No, because you're going to slot Atkinson in there. Maybe you stay with 11-7 and just put Cam in. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But that game last night, it's disappointing that they started the way they did. It's disappointing that they came away with 1 point and an opportunity to really overtake the Toronto Maple Leafs and be in first place. But I'm not going to overreact. And here's the reason why I'm not going to overreact. They didn't get a ton of shots on goal, but they fired a lot of shots on net. The shot attempts were as high as you're going to see. And John Cooper said this in the postgame last night. You're not going to have many games last night where you're going to have as many shot attempts as you had, as many block shots, and as many times as they missed the net. It just doesn't happen very often anywhere. So I look at that game last night, and I don't think there's any major cause for concern, because at times maybe they overpassed a little bit on the power play, but not anywhere near to the effect that we've seen in years past. Especially in that first period when they went down, they were firing shots and firing shots and firing shots. Lilleberg gets careless with his stick. He hits Tavares up high. Nyes ends up making him pay with the power play goal. Like, those little things can happen. But I don't, and you know me, if something's wrong, if I see something and I'm like, oh, this is a really big sign for concern, I'm going to say it. I just didn't come away from that game last night worried, because if those two teams play in the second round and the Lightning are fully healthy, if they play like that, I think they're going to be okay. I don't see them coming out of the gate slow like that. Also, I think they have the advantage in net. I think they have the advantage on the blue line. Jake Gensel wasn't in the game last night. And here's two guys that I thought played some of their best hockey last night. And that was Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand is starting to find his way. He's really starting to find his groove for this team. He's playing faster. He's getting more aggressive there on the power play. And listen, the power play took a little bit of a hit last night because Gensel wasn't there. So, and then when Point got into the fight, right, it made it look a little weirder because you pass the puck to Hagel on the left wing there, and he can't shoot it off the pass because he's left-handed. And the numbers game we mentioned. So you have no Gensel. Glendening gets hurt. Braden Point gets into a fight. So at that point, you have 9 forwards. So that's why you got to understand what that context was from the game last night. And then in overtime, listen, Braden Point is a breakaway early in overtime. He could score that goal. Good save by Stolars. And then Nyes end up scoring. But listen, I see Toronto doing a lot of the same things around the periphery, a lot of fancy passing. Like, I don't care what the regular season statistics looks like. Remember a couple of years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, the Lightning lost to the Bruins every game in the regular season. Then I think they lost game 1, and then they won the next 4. So it really doesn't matter once you get into the postseason, because I really believe that this Lightning team is different than what we've seen in the regular season. So I come away a little bit encouraged, to be honest with you. I know that's a little weird, but I like it, man. I like it. I don't necessarily hate it all that much. I think there is a positive or 5 to come from that game last night. You still get a point. Were they going to be able to win that series anyway? Were they ever going to win the division anyway? Probably not. Because we know what Toronto can do in the regular season. They just overwhelm some of these teams that don't defend as well as the Tampa Bay Lightning and some of these other top teams. So I'm not concerned. Are you concerned with the Tampa Bay Lightning? Dave Velasquez, not concerned, but we got to win those close games. People scoring on us pretty easy at times. David Terry got to work on our faceoffs. Dave said, "Gotta feel like we was playing soft with them, then applied force, but the great teams win those games." Yeah, but it's not the full team though, Dave. It's not the full team, right? When Luke goes down and Jake's not in the game, I'm not overly concerned. I'm not freaking out, but we'll see how they bounce back. We'll see how they respond. You're probably not going to win the division now, right? And we'll look at it real quick. I want to check out the standings while we have you guys here. But when you look at the standings, it's going to be an uphill climb to be able to catch the Leafs. You're 3 points behind. You're even at 78 apiece. You need them to win, to lose 2, and there's only 4 games left. We know what they can do. Right now, you're 3 points ahead of the Panthers. They are 4 points ahead of the Senators. So, if you're betting, unless one of these 2 teams below the Lightning go on a little bit of a skid here, you're looking at a Lightning Panthers first round matchup in some form or fashion, whether the Bolts are home or whether the Panthers are going to be home. And listen, that's what we've come to expect. It's what we've come to expect the last couple of years with these teams. This is the Tampa Bay Lightning for you, man. It's either Toronto or it's the Florida Panthers. Just never seems to end. And I really hope that they change the playoff format because it's getting a little tired, a little old for sure. Updates for the Masters. Let's give you those as you're here on the program. Let's see. Who is in first place? It's Jaeger. Okay, 4 under through 12. Scotty Scheffler up to second, 3 under. Joaquin Niemann, Tyrrell Hatton, Laurie Cantor, Matt McCarty, and Justin Rose at 2 under. Look at 3 Englishmen in the top 6 there, and still yet to tee off a bunch of guys a little bit later on, including Akshay Bhatia, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, who I picked to win it all as well. If you want to contribute to the program here, feel free to jump in with a call. StreamYard.com/2BFSNR and 9RZSU8. Easy for me to say. Let's see what else. We gave you the Rays starting lineups here in a little bit. Tonight, I am actually going to be at King High School. Head coach Jim Macaluso, 50 years there at King High School. Tonight is his last home game. I will be there in attendance. So if you are going to be in the area, make sure you come on out. I'm going to do some video work, and I'm going to share some of the videos online with everybody as part of our good friends over there at 813 Preps. And make sure you're following all of our guys. They do such a fantastic job. And this week as well. This week, with Jared Guthrie and everybody at 813 Preps, what they have been able to do to highlight Coach Jim Macaluso is just phenomenal. I love this, and we're going to get into hearing what is going on from Jason Licht today. And this is from Jenna Lane from ESPN. And I wanted to play this video real quick for you because Jason Licht just finished speaking over at the Avon Health Training Center at One Buc Place. And we speak so much about how you treat people. And just listen. You want to understand the secret sauce. You want to understand why a team like the Buccaneers can bring these free agents back and to have such a phenomenal environment and culture. Listen to what Jason Licht had to say today.
What traits do you look for in terms of their character? If you're talking about their stories, obviously you highlight Chris Godwin, Levante, and what they represent. But what do you look for in terms of character when you're drafting?
How accountable they've been, kind of leaders they are, their general character, how they treat everybody around the building, whether it's the interns or the people working in the kitchen and janitors or whoever it is. We try to get a report from everybody that touched them during the day. I don't know if they realize this. Some of them probably wish they would have known that. It just what kind of, I'd like to hear them talk about their teammates and what players that they went against this year and past years that gave them troubles, and just to hear their confidence and their humility too.
Beautiful. And listen, aren't we learning more and more about that when it comes to sports? We're learning more and more about these players, these coaches, these front offices. The culture is so big, man. The culture is so important. How you treat people, man. My dad used to always say that. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't do anything to anybody else that you wouldn't want done to yourself. And you kind of realize that is the secret sauce for the success the great examples right here. The great examples from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? when you hear stuff like that from Jason Licht and you hear him say, hey, we're analyzing these players, not just what they do on film, not just what they've done in their college career, not just how they're interviewing with us, but also how they treat the people around here. From the interns to the wait staff, like that's what it's all about. That's the true character. And that's the kind of people that you want to build an organization with. And just think about it, guys. As much as we love, and I get you have to be good, right? I understand that there's a talent level aspect and you have to be able to score touchdowns. I get that, because if you don't do that, really, that's one of the end all be alls, right? But when you watch how Baker operates, when you watch, and I look at the three guys that I've been around for such a long time now, when you speak to Levante David, and when you speak to Mike Evans, and when you speak to Chris Godwin, it just as great of a player that they could ever be, them as human beings it's so far and beyond what they'll ever be as an athlete. And you look at what Baker was able to do when he comes here with his wife and the foundation, and how they treat the offensive linemen, and how they treat the media and everybody. And yeah, you're going to have a chip on your shoulder, right? You're not always going to be the friendliest, right? Because, you're out there and you're trying to compete and you got the little edge to you. I understand that. But the respect that they have for everybody involved in the organization and the franchise and the media, dealing with Mike and Chris and Levante over the years. And it's more than them. I mean, and those are guys that have been here for a while. I can tell you that Tristan Wirfs, who we know is the best left tackle, he's the best tackle in football, left tackle, right tackle. Tristan Wirfs speaks after every game. He'll speak to you in a scrum. He'll speak to you one-on-one. He is one of the most humble superstars that are in all of sports. And then you look at some of the other guys that they've drafted. And I remember having conversations a ton with Graham Barton last year. And almost after every game, and he always made time. Talking to Payne Durham and Devin Culp. Like, it's not just the guys that are the first and second and third round picks. It's not just the stars. It is the guys at the top of the depth chart and the bottom of the depth chart. The guys that are making multi-million dollars and guys are making the veteran minimum. Those are the type. So people can say all they want. Like we're trying to bring guys in with great character. Yeah, you say that. You say that. But where's the proof? Do you really do that? And you judged the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you judged the Tampa Bay Lightning by what they do on the field, but your everyday interaction with people, that is what goes a very, very long way. And, even busting your chops. Yesterday, I'm in the Lightning locker room, and all of a sudden I'm listening to Darren Radish talking to Eric Erlinson. They were talking about something, and he's like, yeah, I'm just here to see what kind of stupid ass shoes Jay is wearing. Like, come on, man. But like, you don't do that unless you have a great personality, unless you have a great relationship, and just it's a great room. It's a freaking great room. Some of the big things that we learned from earlier today, I just want to read some of the tweets from our friends at Pewter Report. Jason Licht says they can always use wide receivers. They are fortunate to have Mike and Chris, but they always want to keep that group fresh. They're not going to overlook that position. I mentioned this on the program yesterday, the Beckles and Recher podcast. You can go check it out on my channel. I think it would be a huge mistake if the Buccaneers draft a wide receiver at 19. Huge mistake. Should they draft a wide receiver at all? Yeah, I think they should. But at 19, when you need a linebacker, you need a corner, you need some more pass rushers, maybe a safety, maybe a D tackle, I think that would be a big mistake, knowing that you have Evans, you have Godwin, you have Jalen McMillan, or you have Trey Palmer. This guy comes in, even if he's a top guy, even if he's a Golden, even if he's a Tet McMillan kind of guy, or a Buka. What is he going to do? At very best, he's 2 or 3. Is that guy going to be able to? Is make as much impact in year one. I mean, the Bucs like to start their first round picks, man. Barton, and it's not like they don't have to work for it. We saw Barton and Hainsey go at it last year, but Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea and Mike Evans, like all the year first round picks, they want these guys to play right off the rip. That guy's not going to start a wide receiver. If Chris is healthy and he's out there week one, that guy's not starting, right? Let's just be honest. I don't care how good he is. It's just not going to happen because you could be the most talented receiver in the world, but there's so much more than just being a talented receiver, especially with this team, especially a team that wants to put an onus on running the football. I think that'd be a huge mistake if they did that. Jason Licht also said if they would have known how productive Bucky Irvin was going to be, they would have drafted him in the first or second round. In recent drafts, they have come out of it saying they drafted great guys. Jason also said he and Bruce Arians talk from time to time, but Bruce really likes the golf course now. Jason says that without John Spytek around, everybody's stepping up, including guys like Rob McCartney and Mike Beal. Jason adds that it's an ongoing evolving process when scouting and evaluating edge rushers. You're not always right. Light has grown, and as a group, they tweak to what to look for every single year. He says that he goes through all the resources, mock drafts, top 30 visits, while also understanding what each team needs during the draft process. And he says that people think you're playing games when you're not. It really is about how it's going to fall. He's gotten top balls excited about a lot of offensive players. That is interesting as well. And as much as you may think that you know what's going to happen for the NFL draft, that's the great thing about it. There's just so many different variables. I love that. I love the ability that it's a crapshoot. How many people really thought that the Falcons were going to draft Michael Penix Jr. last year? Right? Not many people thought that. Could have been a possibility, and I know some people are, hindsight's 2020, and wasn't that surprising. But after you give Kirk Cousins all that money, there were people like, wow, I can't believe that's the direction they went. I remember Clelin Ferrell went number 4 years ago to the Raiders. People were surprised. People were shocked. That's what I love about the NFL draft. And this year, it might be kind of wonky. It looks like Cam Ward's going to go number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. But what happens at 2? Do the Browns go with a quarterback? Do they go with Shador? Do they go Travis Hunter? Do they go Abdul Carter? And then what do the Giants do at 3 after signing Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson? Do they get another quarterback and take Shador? Don't know. What happens with Ashton Genty? What does Jacksonville do? Everybody seems like Mason Graham is the guy for them, but what if it's not? What if they go with a running back? We spoke about that with our guy Jamal St. Cyr a couple of weeks ago. Dave Velasquez, we desperately need a corner, but that wide receiver Matthew Golden is badass. Yeah, I don't disagree, but I mean, everybody says take best player available, and Ian and I were going about back and forth about this yesterday. It's best player available for you, not best player overall, because you're not drafting a quarterback at 19 if he's the best guy there when you have Baker Mayfield. It's just not happening. And I don't think that would be a smart move to draft a wide receiver at 19. If they do, they do, but there's still a lot of holes in this defense. I wanted to address this from J11. Breezewell effed up the Isaac Howard situation. Got to plan ahead to make sure cap space is open to be able to sign these guys. I don't think you can worry about that. You can't worry about Isaac Howard and having cap space throughout the entire season. And he has worked on it. If anybody's going to be able to do that, it's Julian Breezewell. But what if it doesn't work out? What if he's not good this year, right? Because as much as it is offensively that we look at it, what if he makes a mistake and he turns the puck over and it leads to a goal that loses the series for the Lightning? Then what? When you have other guys on the bench, when you have guys like, I thought Gage Gonsalves played pretty well last night too. He's been getting a lot better. So there's no guarantee that he's going to come in and he's going to light the world on fire. You can't play with your cap space in a way where it's like, all right, well, maybe if Isaac Howard is ready. The team that he has right now, like that's a bonus. That's an added thing. And listen, this is a leverage play with Isaac Howard. We said this on the program yesterday. I'm going to say it again here. This is a leverage play. It's still not over. Everybody's like, oh, we effed up this situation. If you go back and listen to the conversations that we had with Ed Encina and Eric Erlinson, what did we say? We said that if they couldn't make the finances work, you weren't going to see Isaac until the last 2 games of the season. Maybe that's just a ploy, putting that information out there because you wanted it to happen 2 games earlier. But I mean, 2 games, 4 games, as long as he's on the team for me and see what he can and work with, then that's fine. Maybe he doesn't get an opportunity until the postseason. All right. What's the big deal? Now, obviously, the Lightning are going to have to make that, decision. But as far as people saying like he messed this entire thing up, I don't think so. He has to focus right now on this team right now. This team at hand is the most important thing. And right now, Isaac Howard's not part of it. Could he be? Yeah. And I think he could make a difference. But you have to focus on this roster that you have right now. Give it a couple of days. We'll see what happens with Isaac Howard. He's not going back to Michigan State. I know people are talking about that, but he's a Hobie Baker finalist. He wants to be with the Lightning. You think he's going back to Michigan State? Why would you risk that? I wouldn't. That wouldn't make much sense to me. I think it's just be patient. I know it's a lot of information, but even what Elliot Friedman said, it's not set in stone yet. So let's be patient. Ren says the only reach I could see the Bucks take at 19 years old, the CB out of ECU, big dude. Maybe you can get him in the second round too. I would love to see Will Johnson fall to them at 19. I don't think that's going to happen. If you get to some point where you get again, Will Johnson, he's not falling to 19, but if you can get a Jahad Campbell, the shoulder injury worries me a little bit. Do you go with a pass rusher with Ezeraku and then maybe go to, a Schlesinger, a Bassler, some of these other guys in the middle rounds? I just want to see boom, 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 like first 4 picks. Give me 3 defensive guys and a receiver if that's where you want to go. You want to get another D tackle in there to rotate. I'm not going to hate a pass rusher, but you need linebackers. You need cornerbacks. I still, as much as I love Servassier Dennis, I don't know. Banking on him to be healthy. This is a guy that was not healthy last year. So, you can't give him the benefit of the doubt because he hasn't earned it. All right, you guys ready? It is time for the next edition of Recher Reveals, and let's bring it out. Boom. A box from our friends at Steinbrenner High School, head coach Chenzo Scanio, and the baseball team. You guys ready for this? Are you ready for this bad boy? I cannot wait. Recher Reveals. Let's do this thing. And again, if you have any teams that want to send some packages our way, feel free to do so. Reach out to me on social media, and we will make that happen. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, damn. We are starting out this. Jesus, Scanio. We got a hat. Look at this. The white. Okay. The white Steinbrenner hat. The Warriors. I like that logo. And this is what I love about Steinbrenner too. And I've known Chenzo for a very, very long time. Love the Scanio family. This is a baseball guy through and through. Now, that was all right. Got the snapback here. Got the flex fit here. Nike. Okay, with the blue jump. I like that. Big fan of this one as well. Let's see. Let's go with the Warriors. Great. They did not let it, this wasn't one of those. Oh, it's a hoodie. Get it. Look at this. All right. Warrior baseball. Can't beat that with the hood. I honestly have never had a shirt like this. I know a lot of people doing with it's a short sleeve with the hoodie. I've never actually had a shirt like this. Baker Mayfield wears these all the time. Oh, man, another one. Jeez, this guy went into the closet. Look at this dude, man. Yellow dry fit, Warrior baseball. Can't beat it. Shout out to Chenzo. Another one. Blue. God, man, they just dug deep. Listen, if you are going to send a box now, man, you cannot come up lame. Look at this one. Another one. Gee, how many freaking shirts do you guys have at Steinbrenner? Another short sleeve hoodie. God, man, crushing it. Another one. We're not done. We are not done. Another one. Dry fit. This guy reached into the closet and brought them all out. We got another one. Is this the last one? This is the last one. This is a regular, a long sleeve hoodie. Everything's light here. I like it. Look at this, man. Steinbrenner Baseball, Nike. Shout out to Chenzo Scanio and everybody over there. We got a nice card here. We know he's going to read the card here. Just got to read the card, right? Love it. Love this. Jay, thank you for everything you do for all the Tampa sports. Keep being you. Go Warriors. Chenzo Scanio, head coach of Steinbrenner. I love you, brother. Thank you so much. Man, you guys did not spare any expense. I mean, look at these hats. Look at these hats and all of the shirts. My goodness. This is what I love about the Tampa Bay area and somebody like Chenzo and the entire Scanio family. And when you have a program like Steinbrenner that was, one of the newer schools in the Bay Area, and the first ever head coach, our good pal John Crumley, state champion there at Jesuit, goes to Steinbrenner, starts this program, and really sets them up, right, for success going forward. And then Coach Crum retires, and then who comes in after but Chenzo? And Chenzo is a guy that is Tampa baseball through and through. His mom Yvette, his dad Vince, they've been around the baseball field forever, right? I coached Chenzo when he was at Hit Factory, saw him pitch there at TC, and watched him play college ball, saw him coach, and now he's back here in the Bay Area. There couldn't have been a better person to take over for somebody like Coach Crumley. Baseball is the heartbeat of Tampa, and it courses through the veins of people that were born and raised here in the 813. And Chenzo and the Scanio family, you couldn't ask for a better representation of baseball in Tampa Bay. So thank you to Chenzo and Steinbrenner. Yeah, man, that was a lot of stuff. I thought it was just going to be a hat and a shirt and then a card, but man, that was a bunch of shirts, 2 hats. So shout out to Steinbrenner, shout out to the Warriors. You guys are the best. Recher Reveals, number 2 ever. Steinbrenner Baseball Team, the Warriors, Coach Chenzo Scanio, and the entire crew over there, setting the bar really high. So if you want to be part of Recher Reveals, make sure you hit me up on all social media platforms. I know there's a couple of different teams that have already reached out for my address that are going to send a box with some more stuff. So if you want that to be you, reach out. But yeah, I can't wipe the smile off my face, man. I'm so blessed and honored and grateful. And that's what we do here on the Jay Recher podcast, man. We want to continue to show love to Tampa, Team Tampa Bay all the way. I said that with Coach Hodgson a little before. Nobody's going to care about this place as much as me. I wasn't born here, but I love this place. And it's a part of the reason why I stay here is because, my whole family's not here. They're up north, but I'm here because I love it. And great stuff. Great stuff, man. So excited. Again, I can't wipe the smile off my face. Thank you, Chenzo and Steinbrenner. And let's see if one of you guys out there will be next for our Recher Reveals series. Steinbrenner will grade everything. I mean, it's tough. Is it a 10 out of 10? That's a lot of stuff there. I can't give it a grade because I would feel bad, but amazing stuff, man. I can't wear this tonight because I'm going to King, but this one is badass, dude. This last one. Look at this thing right here. Look at that with the home plate logo that's sick. Sick. Thank you, Chenzo. Love you, buddy. You're the man. You are the best. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Rays are about to start over there at Steinbrenner Field right now. They snapped the 5-game losing streak last night against the Angels. That's what you want to see when it comes to the Rays. Playing the game the right way. And early on in the contest, man, and I want to bring this up real quick too. When you look at what happened last night when it comes to the Rays, early on in that contest, who came up big? Jose Caballero. Jose Caballero hits the grand slam, and you're watching that game, and if you remember last year, I have a lot of questions when it comes to the Rays. I always do. I always have a lot of questions when it comes to the Rays. And I, as a guy that grew up coaching baseball and just being around the game, I always think about, what about this? And I just don't listen to the status quo. I'm always just going to look at a different angle and look at a different aspect. What about this? What about that? And last year, they're sitting telling me that, yeah, Renee Pinto is going to be your everyday catcher. And I'm like, really? Okay. Jose Caballero is going to be your everyday shortstop. And I'm like, really? These guys didn't have a ton of experience playing in those positions. And you're playing in the AL East. You're playing against some other really great teams. And I just don't know if that was the smartest for a team that prides itself on pitching and defense. I mean, those guys didn't have a track record of being great defenders. And I think that might have been part of the reason why they struggled. And you look at last year, the guys that were behind the plate last year. I mean, it ended up being the Ben Rortvedt show last season. Remember? And then Caballero, I think he did a better job than I thought, but he's more of a utility guy rather than being an everyday shortstop. And Taylor Walls, you can't really hate on him for his glove. He's such a really good defender, but I love what Jose Caballero brings to the table as far as he does whatever it takes to win. Stealing bases, he'll play outfield, he'll play short, he'll play second, he'll play third. And I've almost come to the kind of mindset of if I have a guy like Jose Caballero on the team, I'd rather have him where he has a little bit more of a deficiency shortstop than a Taylor Walls, because he can do so many different things for me. He puts the ball in play. He can get bunts down. I just love his attitude. I love his disposition. And I want to see more of Jose Caballero. I want to see him in the lineup every day. I want to see him get that opportunity to, does Taylor Walls, does he earn the right to start every day? I don't think so. I mean, he's a good defender, but at the end of the day, you got to play your best players if you're the Rays. I know there's a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of, right, well, we're going to balance it out, and we're going to platoon guys. I get that. But you got to play your best players, and you're seeing it today. Jose Caballero playing shortstop, batting seventh. He's batting .272. His OPS is over 1,000. Give him a little bit of a run. Let him play. Rays are looking for a win today. Again, first pitch going down right now at George Steinbrenner Field. Taylor Ward leads it off for the Angels. Let's give you those lineups real quick. Taylor Ward leads off for the Angels, batting left field. Rengifo at third, bats second. Mike Trout bats third. He's the designated hitter. Jorge Soler in right field. He bats cleanup. Logan O'Hoppe will do the catching and bat fifth. Nolan Shanuel, Florida Atlantic grad, bats sixth. He's at first. How about this kid, Paris? He just keeps hitting home runs. Kyron Paris, the 23-year-old, the second-round pick from a couple of years ago, right out of high school there in Oakley, California. This dude is balling right now. He's got 5 home runs on the season, batting .440. Keep him in the yard at all costs. Joe Adell in center field, he bats 8th, and then Tim Anderson bats 9th at shortstop. Listen, the Angels are 7-4 right now. That's not a bad lineup. It really isn't. Jose Soriano on the bump for the Angels today. And we'll see what the Rays can do against the 26-year-old right-hander, 6'3", 220 so far this season, 1-1 with a 3.65 ERA and 2 starts, a whip of under 1. So he's going to be around the plate. For the Rays, Yandy Diaz bats leadoff. He'll be the designated hitter today. A couple of knocks for Yandy last night, which was good, including that home run. Where? Opposite field. A lot of home runs last night. But again, Yandy Diaz, Junior Caminero, the last 2 nights, what did we see? Opposite field power. We've been stressing that a ton. Go with the pitch. Brandon Lau bats second. He'll play second. Junior Caminero bats third. He's in third. Jonathan Aranda. That didn't take long. On the second pitch of the game, Taylor Ward hits a solo shot. The Angels lead 1-0. Oh, my gosh. Zach Littell is going to be around the plate a lot, man, but that's stuff. I mean, if he's not keeping the ball down, that ball gets up in the air, he's going to struggle. And just 2 pitches into the game, Taylor Ward, solo shot to right field. It seems like that's where the ball is flying out for these right-handed hitters. So stay with that all year long. So 1-0 Rays trail in the first inning so far. Jonathan Ronda batting cleanup. He'll be at first base. Christopher Morel in left field. He bats 5th. Cam Meisner in center bats 6th. The aforementioned Jose Caballero bats 7th. He'll be at shortstop. Jake Mangum in right field bats 8th. And then Ben Rortvedt will bat 9th and do the catching. My God, that didn't take long. That did not take long for the Rays to give up the 1-0 lead. And, Zach Littell, it was a 6-man rotation, obviously with Shane McClanahan in there. But Zach Littell, you would think if, he's 0-2 right now, we know he's a converted reliever, but this isn't a guy that's going to break the radar gun. This is a guy, when you look at the velocity, it's the lowest out of anybody. And when you go back to the game last night, you see what Ryan Pepio was able to do. He battled. It wasn't pretty. He didn't have his A stuff, but he knew what lead that he had to work with to start that game last night because of the grand slam from Jose Caballero, and he battled through it. That's what you want to see. You want to see that bulldog mentality from Pepio. Not saying that Littell doesn't have that, but he also doesn't have the fastball to be able to get some of that swing and miss stuff that you need in the big leagues. So I wonder what's going to happen with Zach Littell if he keeps throwing like this. And Mike Trout lines out to center field Cam Meisner so far. So 2 outs there in the first. We'll see how Zach Littell bounces back, but not a great start as the Rays trail 1-0 in the first inning. Let's take a look at the standings so far in the big leagues. The Yankees won a game 4-3 yesterday against the Tigers. They were up 4-0. Devin Williams giving up 3 runs in the 9th inning yesterday. I don't like that at all for the Yankees. I have said this for many, many years, and I'll say it again. Power pitching plays at the end of the year. I like closers that throw hard. These guys that don't, throw over 95 and you're a closer, I think you're bound to have some struggles. The only guy that we've really seen have success the last couple of years is a guy like Ryan Presley for the Astros. I mean, you think about it, man. Think about all the other great closers in the game, whether it's a Josh Hader or Emmanuel Clase. These guys are throwing hard. Even Aroldis Chapman, right? These guys are throwing cheese. You got to be able to throw hard. And if you're banking on the ball moving and change-ups and keeping hitters off balance, like sometimes it's like good morning, good afternoon, and good night when it comes to a closer. You got to throw hard. And sometimes you have to avoid contact. And the fact that you're almost trying to induce contact because you're a change-up guy, I just don't see how that bodes well, especially in the AL East. Blue Jays in first with an 8-5 record. Yankees 7-5. Boston 6-7. The Rays 5-6 going into the game. And the Orioles at 5-8. How about those O's? They are struggling. And I would be very surprised if at this point next year that Brennan Hyde is going to be the head coach or the manager of the Orioles. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't think he's going to be the guy. It's a struggle. It's a struggle for him with this team. There's a lot of young prospects. There's a lot of good guys in the pipeline when it comes to the Orioles, but they don't have the pitching. They lost Corbin Burns. They didn't make up for it. And now Eflin's banged up. Grayson Rodriguez is there. You have all of these highly touted offensive prospects, but I mean, if they don't really take the bull by the horns here in the middle of the season, I think Hyde's out, and they're going to try to find somebody else. Maybe you find a veteran guy to work with some of these young players, but I don't see it. Curtis Mead did have 2 hits in that game last night, and I want to point this out. 2 nights ago, everybody was losing their mind about Curtis Mead. I can't believe Curtis Mead was pinch hit for Jonathan Aranda. I told you guys, what is Kevin Cash going to try to do when it comes to Curtis Mead? He's going to find a way to try to get him to snap out of this slump. Now, you may not like that. You may not like that he pinch hit for Jonathan Aranda in that situation, even though it was a left-on-left situation and Aranda was 2 for 2, and he's been one of the better hitters of the season. I get that. But you also are platooning a lot of guys, and that is an opportunity against a tough left-hander to bring in a righty and try to give him an opportunity to snap out of the funk. It didn't work there, but you don't know when it comes to baseball the kind of intangible impact a decision makes, not just on that day, but the next day. So maybe putting Mead in that spot, he's like, hey, man, coach had he had the faith in me. He had the belief in me to go with me in that spot. If I get another opportunity tomorrow, I'm going to make it worth it. And that's what he did. He had 2 hits. I love that. So good for a guy like Curtis Mead. But again, you go back to a situation like today. Now Curtis Mead isn't in the lineup. Does that when you go the rhyme and reason, right? You finally get Curtis Mead with 2 hits, and now he's back out of the lineup. It's like, all right. It's like, don't you want to see him build on that momentum? I know it's a tough right-hander. Where are you going to put him in? Are you going to put him at DH? No, you have Yandy there. You sit Yandy. I guess that's the decision, right? Do you sit Yandy or do you sit a guy like Curtis Mead? You don't want to sit Yandy after 2 hits yesterday. So I guess with Curtis Mead, you play him at second. You don't want to take Lau out of the lineup. I mean, we'll see. But I'd be very surprised. And maybe today could have been a day to sit Junior Caminero down, batting 229. Maybe you put Mead over there. Yandy grounds out to start the first inning, average down to 170. He has to pick it up. He has to continue to swing the bat well. If not, they're going to be in big trouble. Let's give you an update for the Masters. Right now in first place, guess who it is? Yep, you guessed it. I'm sure a lot of people picked him. Scotty Scheffler tied for first with Terrell Hatton and Justin Rose. Aaron Rai, Brian Harmon, Stephen Yeager, Joaquin Neiman, Jordan Spieth, Laurie Cantor, and Max Homa tied for fourth with 2 under and a slew of guys at 1 under. Still a bunch of guys yet to tee off, but the Masters are underway. Did you guys see last night 4 hat tricks in the National Hockey League, which was kind of nuts? What a wild night in the NHL. 8-5 win for the, let's see. Oh, I got to say, sorry, Ed Encina. I didn't set Ed Encina link. I think he's going to need the link if he's going to join us on the program today. My bad. But yeah, 4 hat tricks last night. The Rangers lost 8-5. There was a 7-6 game as well. BFS9RZ. There we go. All right, Ed will be joining us here in a couple of minutes. We'll bring him in early as well. Again, if you guys want to hop in on the conversation and join us via the video call, there you go. There's the link right there. But yeah, wild night in the NHL and then the NBA as well. To be able to see, Luka Doncic beat the snot out of the Mavericks last night, but he was really having a tough time on the sidelines. 45 points in the 112-97 victory for LA as he returns home to Dallas. Just, again, a weird trade. We'll see how it works out. I want to start doing something here on the show, and I'm going to call it In Retrospect. In retrospect, that's when we look back at decisions that were made, and we're going to write them down, and we'll see. We'll come back to it, and we'll see if it works out or not. Now, one of the ones that I want to talk about in retrospect, something dropped. That will be okay. In retrospect, the first one is, I'll write it down here. The firing of Mike Malone. Nuggets fire Mike Malone. Now, if you heard some of the comments from him talking about players are full of crap, they don't watch video, they don't try. And this is what I love about the Inside the NBA crew on Tuesday nights when you have Candace Parker and Shaq and Vince Carter there last night, speaking about the power in the game of the NBA, about how the coaches don't have as much power and that the players have all the power. And I just wonder if this is just another reason why people are they're losing a little of the faith. They're losing some of the interest when it comes to the NBA, seeing so many of these coaches of the year get fired soon after winning the championship. And Candace Parker brought up a point of this is, coaches are going to have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, regardless of their success. Is that something that we should be accepting, that's good? That's a good thing that players are tuning out coaches because they're making more money. We need to accept that as a society. We need to accept that as a franchise. Front offices need to realize that. I don't know if that's very smart. I don't think if that makes a lot of sense. Why can't there be an adaptation from the players? Why can't the players learn to change? We have John Cooper here, right? He's been here for a while. Longest tenured coach in the National Hockey League. Nobody's saying got to get rid of him after 2 or 3 years. Firing a guy this late into the season, when you're in the playoffs, doesn't make very much sense at all. Michael Malone is a championship winning coach, and he called out his team. He was being very honest. This is what happened. This is why they're not, performing up to expectations. And he loses his job, a week or two later. Why? Because you can't fire the whole team. I get that. But in the NBA, more in that sport than any of the other sports, these guys get fat quick. You win a championship, you get the bag, they change. How many times do we see that in the association where guys get a big contract, and all of a sudden he's at the end of the bench, or he gets traded, or they buy him out because it didn't work out? I hate that. It just rubs people the wrong way. I love watching the NBA. I love watching basketball, but you want to be able to, and it's almost the same argument that we have about the Rays, right? You want to be able to build that relationship. You want to be able to understand the coaches and understand the players, and you understand that there's going to be player movement, and it's well within the rights of these players to be able to, sign a different contract and go somewhere else. I get that. But you also understand that that's kind of the thing that's just going to, it's going to have people tune out. Don't give people a reason to get off the highway. Your TV deal might be great. Guys might be getting paid more money than they've ever gotten paid before. But with that being said, look at your TV ratings. Not great. Not great, Bob. So that's my first in retrospect. The Nuggets fire Michael Malone. How is that going to work out in the long run? We shall see. All right, let's bring him in a little early today so we can get him in and we can get him out, because we know he's got a lot going on. It's an off day, so we want to give him some time to do his thing. It's the one and only Eduardo, Eddie Encina, Ed in the yard. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, buddy. How we doing today?
Good, man. Good. What time did you get home last night? Late night?
No, not too late.
Not too
time,
bad.
I think,
Yeah, because you didn't ask any questions in the post game. I was taking the heat last night.
It's
John
about time,
Cooper.
Jay.
I always ask post game interviews. I always ask post game questions, but I got like 6 in last night. It was my night.
Yeah, Cooper was a little salty at first, but as always, he the more you let him talk, the more he just has to let it loose. So, but yeah, it was nice just kind of watching it for a change.
Yeah,
Instead of being immersed.
I know, right? Instead of you being the guy that had to, deal with all that jazz. What did you make of the start of that game last night, man? It just seemed like the Lightning I think that's the big, obviously, topic of conversation and point of contention for Bolts Nation out there is, you have an opportunity to win that game in regulation. You're in first place today if that happens, and then you lay a complete egg in the first 3.5 minutes going down 2-0.
Yeah, I think it was tough also because, I think this team, despite the, them losing the first 3 games against Toronto, that they felt that they had this was an opportunity to kind of write that narrative, a little bit, because a lot of those games were pretty early in the season. And then, it's tough because, even in the playoffs, you're not going to play perfect hockey, right? But you have to stop a couple things. One, you have to have decent starts, and you can't stop the snowball effect, right? So, the other night, last night, when you look at both of those goals, bad turnovers just kind of, end up in the back of the net, and, all within three and change minutes, into the game. And you just can't have that. As Coop said, it was embarrassing, and especially given what was kind of on the line there, the opportunity that presented itself, the way that, I honestly don't think the Lightning played poorly over the road trip. I think that it was one of those ones where you could say that they played well for the most part and deserved a little bit more. You take away a couple periods, a couple turnovers, and it's probably a little bit better. But they ended up on the right way in New York. Power play got going. They did to the Rangers what Toronto kind of did to them in terms of making it snowball. So, but that's the kind of stuff that when you look at what can kill you in the postseason and what can kill you in the series, because the opportunities aren't going to be there, as much as they are in the regular season. And when you let those things kind of cave on you a little bit, it's a hard way to fight back. And we saw in the series last year with Florida, it felt like they were chasing a lot. And, when a goaltender's on, it's really tough. So I think there's a lot of disappointment in the room. I was actually surprised they scrapped practice today, but I do think that, as Coop said, they got in late the other night. That was a long road trip. I mean, you're going all over New York State, and there's and you kind of see the road ahead a little bit here, where once the playoffs start, you don't have those rest days. So maybe something like this is a little bit of a value to take a day like today off. I think they're scheduled to be off on Saturday after playing Detroit tomorrow too. So as much as we hear them talk a lot about the value of practices and stuff like that, I think right now you want to be fresh, you want to fill the tank, you want to be ready for the postseason. I think you can look back on the last game and they know what they did wrong. It's not an effort thing; it's an execution thing. So you from that you can look at it's just as valuable to look at the tape as it is to be out there, especially at this point in the season, and trying to correct something like that by being on the ice. So but definitely an opportunity lost there, because I think they're in a much different space and feeling a lot better about themselves if they're able to pull that game out, even if it's an overtime. Obviously regulation would have been great because it puts them in first place, but even just to kind of come back from that bad start and be able to pull 2 points out of it would have made them feel a lot better about it.
So as our number one viewer asked the question, how was the tour of New York State, buddy?
It was good. It was a lot of different travel. Actually, it's funny. So the whole reason that I went up to Syracuse was because I had banked a JetBlue flight that I think last year, like there was a game in Boston that I got sick and I didn't go. So I banked that flight, and we do this a lot. It's like you bank the flights and you figure out how to use them later. And I had to use it by schedule it by January something. So in January I looked and I was like, okay, look at the schedule and where's a place I can go, and there really anything didn't work out because JetBlue only fly, it's really like Boston, New York, places like that they're direct. And I realized that there was a direct flight from Orlando to Syracuse. And so it was pretty cheap. I could have used you just slot it in there, no cost or anything like that. So so the trip started driving to Orlando to take a direct flight to Syracuse, then from Syracuse a 3.5-hour bus ride to Buffalo, and then flying across back to New York, and then obviously coming home. So it was a lot of travel. It felt like sometimes you were in airports or bus stations, or more than necessarily the arena itself, or even your hotel room. But it's always you find a lot of stuff on the road when you're on the road and everything like that. So it's always valuable to be there, and especially in time like that. Everyone's talking about the Isaac Howard stuff, and I think some of that stuff was changing, at least incrementally, day to day with some of that stuff. So it was good to be around the team in times like that too. So, and obviously, just I always treat stuff like this where it's like it's the most valuable to be around the team, down the stretch, and obviously in the postseason, because that's when people, everyone's kind of paying attention, maybe more so than game 46 in
Winnipeg,
Carolina. Or
All right, so let's get into that real quick before we get back to the team. What was your initial thought and takeaway when the news came out yesterday that there's a possibility that Isaac Howard will be, a possibility that he could go back to Michigan State and not join the Lightning? I've been saying that I think it's a leverage play. I think we had an idea that it was going to be tough when it came to the salary cap, and if it was going to happen, it was probably going to happen maybe in the last 2 regular season games. But it seems like a leverage play from Isaac Howard and his representatives. I don't see how, after what he did at Michigan State, he would want to go back to the Spartans, right? What is your entire take on this situation, and if there's any other new information that you've heard or seen?
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment. I think that, in these kind of negotiations, it's, there's only certain times when a player really kind of has leverage, and this is kind of one of them, because it's not about the money, right? It's about, because the entry-level contract is what it is. It's about, him wanting to turn pro, and I'm sure that the notion of him wanting to be on the NHL roster plays a significant part of it too. And then, like I said, the Lightning, they don't have the cap space right now.
Right.
And I think this is kind of a leverage to try to force their hand. Like I think we said yesterday, is like, make it work, figure it out. Like you guys can, you guys are the master capologists of the NHL. Like you can't figure out a way to figure out how to put Isaac Howard on this team. So I think it's definitely a leverage play at this point because, I think the Lightning see this as a definitely not a closing of a book by any means, this news, because it can change at any time. And I think I've said this to you many times is, they work on this 365 days a year, and I think they wake up today, not closing a book on Isaac Howard, but just kind of saying, okay, is there a way, or is this something we evaluate later? We, look at
Right.
Down the stretch. I mean, but I do know that, like I said before, like there was a lot of effort into getting him here and to getting him signed, because I do think that both sides did agree that was him turning pro was in everyone's best interest. Now, where he began, when he began, stuff like that, maybe there was some, as Elliot Freeman said, maybe they weren't simpatico on some of that stuff. But again, like, and again, I think the big question now is if the Lightning do kind of see an issue here and say, okay, like maybe this isn't going to be as easy as we thought it would be. Is do you now have to consider, at least trying to gauge a market here, in terms of there's still plenty of time to sign him. There's no doubt about that. But again, you want to have a guy kind of under your control at this point in terms of his development. Guys, with Isaac, he was drafted in 2012, 2022, and they've had their arms around him for several years in terms of like development camps and their skating coaches going to Michigan State and working with them and everything like that. But there's no doubt that him working and him playing at Michigan State under his former, developmental coach, Adam Nightingale's helped him by leaps and bounds.
Right.
And he might be a better player when the year of hockey if for some reason that comes to actually fruition. But and then it gives them absolute leverage, a year from now when, the Lightning actually feel a ton of pressure. And
do you think it gets to that, Ed?
I for some, like, I mean, again, like there's some things in this that surprise me a little bit, but I don't think it gets to that point.
I don't think so either. I don't see how he goes back to Michigan State after being a Hobie Baker finalist. It was vocal. I mean, he's vocal. He wants to come up here, and the Lightning putting out all the stuff on social media, right? It seems like they want to make it happen. So, I mean, if it doesn't happen and he goes back to Michigan State, like I think you just, I think you write the book and I think he's out of here and you look to move him. But I don't see that as something that Julian and Darch and the entire crew want to do. They want to find a way to get this guy with the team sooner rather than later, but it's got to come at the right time and under the right parameters. No?
Right, for sure. And I think that's, again, I think that they have by far not closed the book on this situation. And, maybe calmer heads prevail in a matter of days, weeks, whatever it is, but everything I've gathered is that Isaac Howard has appreciated everything the Lightning have given him so far, and vice versa, and it would just, I think there are the makings here of it being kind of a little getting ugly here, but I think at the end of the day, everyone wants kind of the same thing, and it's just a process. And the Lightning are a team that's pretty stubborn in their process, but it's also a process that continuously works, whether it's with with a lot of the guys who they've drafted and signed to these, ELCs that start the following year, so don't burn a year and stuff like that. The difference here obviously is that Isaac Howard is a player that of the caliber that they haven't had in this organization in quite a while. They acquired one in Connor Geekie over the summer, but even Geekie, like the hype train on Isaac Howard has been running for 3 years since he, walked down the steps in Montreal and with his turtleneck and his, gold chain and said he was the best dressed guy in the room, And so since then we've seen him only help that kind of stature and in the sense of, being this clutch player who can score, who's exciting to watch. everyone wants to watch, whether that was at World Juniors a couple years or last summer when he, basically leads Team USA to a gold medal in Sweden and, scores 2 games in the final, to, I think everyone's seen the clip of him in double overtime and in the Big Ten tournament in Michigan State a couple weeks ago, leading the Spartans to a conference, tournament championship there. I mean, this guy is different. There's no doubt about it. He has a dynamic way of playing, and he has a swagger about him that few kids his age can legitimately pull off. But there's care that comes with that when you're injecting a guy like that into an organization, into an NHL room, into everything. And I honestly think if Isaac Howard said, hey, just if Isaac Howard was okay with them, hey, just go down to Syracuse for a couple of days, let's get your arms around you. Let's see where you're at right now after playing the 26 game college season at the age of 20, just turning 21, where you're at, because I do think that as much as this is becoming who's right and who's wrong, that the Lightning don't want to put Isaac Howard in a situation where he won't succeed initially.
Right.
That's something that's where Connor Geekie came down. And Connor Geekie had the benefit of no one. I don't think you would have a hard time finding anyone in that organization who had Connor Geekie labeled for the opening right roster when he came into camp. But he had 3 weeks of being able to convince everyone, and that's convincing everyone on the ice, convincing everyone off the ice. And even then, it was kind of a surprise that he did make the team. And but I think at that point they thought, hey, we're putting him in a situation to succeed as a 21-year-old kid who has had very little experience outside of juniors. And I think that's the other thing. I mean, that's the other thing too here. I mean, it's a similar situation. Is I think the Lightning don't want to put. They want to know that this is a guy who, and can he help this team right now? I'm sure he can, right? But I think the Lightning want to be absolutely positive of that before they, make him a promise that he'll be on an NHL roster tomorrow. So I think, it's by far not done. I think there's a little bit of I think all of this is kind of coming from Ike's camp too, obviously, but I don't think the Lightning have given up on this by any means. And like I said, knowing how hard these guys work to make it work, I think that, like I said, the sides might not be talking this morning, but I do think that, the discussions have absolutely not, finished as we sit here right now.
Right. One thing I noticed from the game last night, and this is part of the reason why I brought this up to you guys, months ago, was that secondary scoring, right? The second and third lines. I think that's, especially on the road, I think it dries up a little bit. I get worried that the team is a little bit too top heavy. But that's the reason why you go out and get Yanni Gordon and Oliver Bjorkstrand. I mean, Yanni's not a guy that's going to, he's only scored 1 goal since he's gotten traded, but we know what his impact was before he got traded, or before he got, went to Seattle, and now after. But I love what I saw from Oliver Bjorkstrand last night, man. I thought he was one of the guys that really showed. I feel like he played fast last night. There was one play where he stick handled through Toronto and used his foot, got the puck back on the stick, was able to get it to Kucherov. You see that they're really, I just see a guy growing, right? I see a guy flourishing. And, you see that a lot in sports with young players, and they finally blossom and bloom. But this guy is no spring chicken, right? He's a veteran, but he's signed for the team next year. We've seen what he's able to do, especially in the postseason. But what do you see? Did you see some of those same things? Have you seen it the last couple of games? But did you see it last night as well? Because, I mean, you look at that and you go, man, everybody comes back. Gensel comes back, and you have all 5 guys on the power play. And just even having him 5-on-5, I think you're really starting to see the Oliver Bjorkstrand that Julian Breezeball brought into the Bolts.
Right. I think that the other thing that's tough for a player coming in is it's not just learning how to play with a new team. It's learning how to play with new teammates and different teammates,
Right.
And I think that they did do a good job of putting him with Yanni for the most part, as he's been here, give him something that's comfortable, give him something that, works. I do think that they try him on the power play initially and on that first team on the left wing. And I think he kind of deferred a little bit to some of the other guys. And I think that's natural. Darren Radish did it, when he was on there. It's you want to get, you hear it all the time from young players. I heard from Connor Geekie when I talked to him about playing on the Sorelli line, last week. It's like you play with great players, you want to get the puck in their hands, right? And you don't really think about, and Connor Geeky's talk about how, the best thing about being in Syracuse is that he's a guy who is at his best when he has the puck on a stick. And, in Syracuse, that's what he's doing. He probably wouldn't have the puck on his stick as much if they tried to keep forcing him here, and so, and that gives you the confidence, that gives you your touch, that gives you your scoring, you're looking for space, all that stuff. So, and it's no different than a guy like Bjorkstrand. Obviously he's a proven scorer. He's a proven talent. He's been around the block, he's killed the Lightning in the playoffs before. And, now I think you're just finding with time that he's just getting comfortable. And I love him. I absolutely love him in the spot that they have him at right now in the power play, in that bumper spot. But also the kind of what they're doing on the power play now, which is, Braden Point talked about this the other night in New York, is, that there's times when that power play gets stagnant. They sit in their spots and they just pass the puck around and they're all just waiting for the perfect shot, right? But now what you're seeing, Points moving from the bumper out to the wing. Gensel moves around anyway because he's back in that net front. He's all over the place, But you see Cooch moving from, we know how much he likes to be in the half wall, but we also know how much he loves to be down below the circle on the right side. That lower circle part where you can really see everyone from his vantage. But you're starting to see him move kind of towards the up the top. And when you have the best thing about the Lightning power play is honestly the perception of it, right? There's so many weapons that you have to pick your poison. You haven't talked about Victor Hedman, who scored on the power play yesterday because they basically gave him a ton of space and he just walked into the top of the slot and just probably had one of the best, best open looks all night. And I know they had a lot of looks last night because they missed the net a lot, but, and had a lot of shots blocked, but he had a pretty good one, the expected goal on that shot is pretty high that he scored on. So, when you have the guys moving and you have the kind of skill that those guys have, and then they start performing, like that's how this power play becomes really dangerous. And that's how it's become dangerous for years. I mean, if anything, the tough part has been that on that left circle, you always had Steven Stamkos and you always had to account for him. Right. And when he was gone, maybe that put a little bit more, allowed team to concentrate towards the other guys. But I do like, Bjorkstrand in there because he's got a hard shot. He gets it off quick. And that's what you need in that position, right? But also with the notion that he can move, like him and Point can pretty much move out. I love Brayden Point on the wing because him in space, there's not many better guys in. So you almost want the puck on his stick out there so he can kind of do some stuff versus in the bumper where it's like basically catch and shoot for all.
Even though he's been so great at it the last 5 years, I'm with you, man. But I like the ability to switch because I've been saying that for years, Ed. Like, I love the power play, but I think the reason why they got by, it's not because of some like magic formula. It's just because you have the greatest passer in this generation and the guy who's got the second best slap shot in this generation, and Steven Stamkos behind Ovechkin. So, I mean, you can get away with a lot of stuff. You also have Victor Hedman, who's as tall as he is. So now with more player movement, instead of just relying on puck movement, you have a lot of success, which I'm with you 100%. I think it makes a lot of sense. Look at what Sean Liston's saying. Jay, does Ed owe you a favor a la Paul Heyman, CM Punk, and now Seth Rollins? Hashtag burn it down. Hashtag Lampoys. Hashtag great pod. Yeah, man. I love that. We got a big, next week, we're going to do a big WrestleMania thing too. I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do with that, but we need a big WrestleMania segment with you and Corey and David Shilley and Matt Matera. We're going to do like a big, like fatal 5-way. I want to answer this question too. Once you're done with the serious stuff, I read the concessionaire will change. Nobody's ever put concessionaire on the Jay Recher podcast before. Both of you, what's the best concession food you've had at any sporting arena / stadium that you wish was at Amalie? I don't go to many games now as a fan, so it's tough to answer that question. Trying to think, man.
That's a tough one.
Because we don't go to games like that, We're eating press box food.
We're eating honestly,
16 spring rolls.
One of your 16 dry cardboardy spring rolls
with the red sauce.
Looking forward to new concessionaire. Delaware North's been their concessionaire for quite a while. And I think, the new one, Oakview Group, I think is her name, is I think they're looking at that as more of a not just a concessionaire, but just kind of I guess the word would be hospitality. The way that they would probably
Right.
want to put it is like, how do you use, what you offer your fans in terms of concessions and resources and stuff like that makes the experience better. And
Media dining.
yeah, I mean, I was even saying, I think honestly, this is
There you
Jay,
go.
there. Sorry.
Yeah, we got you.
I think that this is actually one of the first kind of things that we've seen that maybe the new ownership may have their kind of
Right.
fingerprints on, which is good, because I do know from just hearing around is that they've really kind of come in here and really listened to like, hey, what's good and what maybe needs to improve here. So, and that's not any disrespect to Nowhere North. I mean, they're a well-known concessionaire company, but I think this is one of those things. To answer that question, now I think of it, like, this is going to sound funny, but like, I love arena and ballpark sushi.
Really?
And
Okay.
actually, Madison Square Garden. So when we have like when we're on the road, like most places have a food room, basically like a media dining area.
But you get the
Madison
voucher.
Square
You get the
Garden is
voucher, right?
one of the few that actually gives you a voucher. They give you
Mhm.
like a $25 voucher, and you can go anywhere in the arena and get stuff. And
Yep.
most of the times, it's just a little bit of a walk from the hall, but there's a sushi place there that has sashimi. It has, California rolls, everything that's really good. And
Nice.
it's better than like chicken tenders and fries, which is basically what like most things are. But also Seattle has really good sushi. I remember that at Safeco Field for baseball. But the best food room, the best media dining room, and I brag about this all the time, in the NHL, I believe, is Detroit.
Yeah, I
And
heard that.
at Little Caesars Arena. And yes, they do have like a station there that has Little Caesars pizza and wings,
That's great.
but they have it all. Like, it's like there's this area with like, you want the salad and like the meatloaf or something like that. There's a thing where it's like a prime rib or like some kind of like steak thing and roasted chicken. And so if you want like the home cooked meal, you got it there. And it's just a huge, big, long line. Obviously, it's like, I think probably Detroit's one of the newer arenas too in the league, might be the newest one in the league. So obviously that's a big part of it too. But everyone who I know, who we talk about, like when we talk about this stuff about best rooms and food rooms in the league, I think Detroit stands out above the rest. And
What's the worst?
I love games in Detroit. They've got a gondola there that like,
Yeah.
it's a great vantage point. It's a little high, but like you can see everything directly onto the ice. It's a great building. But yeah, I would say that to answer your question, food, like food in the arena, probably like sushi, something like that. But and then like I said, the food room in Detroit's really, really, really good.
What's the worst? Probably the Panthers, right?
Oh, yeah,
It's a rough
Panthers
one.
isn't great.
Panthers is a rough one, man.
It's a rough one. It's kind of yeah, that one's a rough one. Let me try and think if there's another one.
I'm trying to think of Vegas. I'm trying to remember eating at Vegas.
Carolina is actually like, the food is good, but you always got to count on barbecue.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Like it's like you're gonna walk in there and you're like, all right, I'm gonna have Carolina barbecue and
right.
some mashed potatoes. So like there's not the
high floor. There's a high floor. High floor.
Yeah. But
I like that.
I mean, I'm not too picky. Like give me a box of popcorn and a cup of coffee, and I'm okay for the game. So
you got that right. Sean Liston says Dirty Dom prefers those chicken tendies you just trashed. Yeah, you got that right, Sean. And before I let you go, man, what do you got right now up on TampaBay.com/sports here in the Tampa Bay Times?
Yeah, so still getting some good clicks from the story I did on from Syracuse, just kind of talking about the how in different ways Connor Geeky and Connor Sheary handled the demotion down to Syracuse, and how both of them are really playing well and have kind of found their game, and they're a big reason why Syracuse is kind of fighting for a playoff spot down there. Julian actually told me something the other day. He said that the Lightning are one of two teams that could, and actually they'll be the two teams because the other team is Boston, that for 8 straight years make the playoffs for their NHL team and their AHL team.
Wow.
So, and that's when we talk about the Isaac Howard stuff, that's something they're really proud of. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that kind of goes to show how much like there is that process, and even for everyone, and so, but going down to Syria, I know we talked to you about this last week. Like, it was just really cool just seeing the process down there and seeing how, really connected it is. And I've got some other stuff coming on some of that stuff because I got some good color and good interviews on that. Just tomorrow, or what I'm working on actually right now is just kind of the 4 games left, the 4 big things you really need to know going in, because right now, even after last night, the schedule's really in the Lightning's favor. 3 of the 4 opponents are going to come to all 3 home opponents are going to come to Amalie Arena coming off back-to-backs. So, and obviously that didn't help them last night because Toronto was on a back-to-back. But conceivably speaking, you got some tired legs, backup goaltending, whatever it is, you should be able to jump on that. And that's stuff that's important in the playoffs. Whether it's Detroit, Buffalo, the Panthers, obviously. And just some other things to talk about, some of the stuff that we were talking about, the power play, and why that's important right now is because we've seen kind of this evolution of the power play, good and bad throughout the season. We're still seeing Kucherov on that left side every once in a while, which I think is just kind of like a, misdirection play almost,
Right.
kind of like, all right, what are they doing now kind of thing. But it works sometimes, because just for that effect. So just kind of breaking down some of the things that, are important down the stretch here, and probably going a little bit into Vasilevsky and his thing. I talked to Vasi in Buffalo when he had a day off, and he's really cool. He actually talked a lot about what it's been like this year. He gave a lot of kudos to the way that guys have played in front of him defensively this year. Mm-hmm. It's great hearing a goaltender's perspective on that. I know that Vasi doesn't talk a super amount, but like he's really he's really good on talking about like what he's seen from the guys in front of him this year. And again, I think from that story you'll get a lot of like how everyone kind of continues to give Ryan McDonough his well-deserved flowers for kind of being a big part of that. So we'll have a Vasi story coming up into the postseason, and then just round this thing out and get ready for whoever they're going to play, right?
Yeah, buddy. I'm ready to go down to South Florida, buddy. Bill Kempers. We are ready to go, my friend. Can't wait.
Bo Kempers, Flanagan's. We got tons of places down there.
We're ready to go, man. I'm hungry right now just thinking about it. I'm about to go get me some grub as we speak. Eddie in the Yard. Make sure you go subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times today. Now's the time, guys. With baseball just starting up, we see so many great things with USF, but right now, this Lightning coverage, when Ed's traveling on the road, when we're there, you want to make sure that you have all of these stories at your fingertips, whether it's digitally or whether it's in your hands. So again, subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times today. Support local. I cannot say that enough. Eddie in the Yard on Twitter /X. And you can check them out tomorrow at Amalie Arena. The boys are back in action against the Red Wings. Weird games. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. That's just the way it is. We're getting closer.
Don't even
and
know
closer.
what day of the week it is.
I don't even. That's what we said last night. Is it Monday? It's Tuesday. Nope, we're wrong. It was Wednesday last night. All jacked up. Ed, appreciate you, brother. See you tomorrow. Talk to you next week.
All right, Jay. Thanks for having me, buddy. Talk to you later.
Thanks, pal. See you. Eduardo, Ed Encina, our guy. Again, support local Tampa Bay Times. Go sign up today, man. Super, super important to support our friends here in the Tampa Bay area. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. What a great show today. I can't thank Coach Bryan Hodgson enough from USF. What a great interview. Fantastic back and forth with him. We'll post that up on our social medias, as well as Ed Encina from the Tampa Bay Times. Always appreciate him stopping by every Thursday. Talking Bucks, talking Rays, talking Lightning. Let's give you a quick update on the Masters. And 2-0 right now. Angels, RBI double from Nolan Shanuel as well. So RBI double. Yeah, RBI double for Shanuel. Solo home run from Taylor Ward. So 2-0 Angels, top of the fourth. As far as the Masters go, looks like Terrell Hatton is in first place as we speak. Yes, he's 4 under through 12. Colin Morikawa and Scotty Scheffler and Justin Rose tied at 2, tied for second, 3 under. And then 2 under Aaron Ryder, Corey Connors, Matt Greiserman, and Jason Day. Looks like everybody is teed off. Nope, last group about to come up, or they just teed off, excuse me. Sepp Straka, Sam Burns, and Sahith Theegala. Nick Dunlap in last, 13 over. And we're seeing some of the names at the bottom of the leaderboard there. Phil Mickelson 3 over, Billy Horschel, Byung-Hyun An, and Danny Willett as well. All right, on the program tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we got Leo Fernandez from the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Again, rowdysoccer.com. Go check out Everything over there. Get you some tickets. The home opener Saturday night at Al Lang Stadium. Be there. I will be there. Make sure you come by and say hello to Jordan Listro from the Tampa Bay Sun at 1:30. We'll also be live at Amalie Arena, so we'll have sound from you, from John Cooper and some of the players on the team, as well as a recap of what went on with the Tampa Bay Rays. Follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. I'm on iHeart. I'm on iTunes. I'm on Spotify. Make sure you download the audio versions as well. Share this on your social media platform. You don't know how much that helps to be able to download some of these things and to continue to grow the Jay Recher podcast. All right, I'm going to go get some grub because I am hungry. I'm going to go watch some Rays baseball on Man U at 3 o'clock. I love you all. I thank you for all the love and support. We'll see you tomorrow at noon, live from Amalie Arena right here on the Jay Recher podcast. I'm going. Peace out.